artists, and welcome to day 70 of the epic journey. Today we're actually going to be finishing this glazed portrait. I've actually done 2 days in one. What you see me doing there now is simply a repeat of what I've done in one of the previous days, where I was just going back over again with some more alizarin crimson to warm up her face, highlighting the rosiness of her cheeks, smoothing everything out. And then I come into her lips, do the same thing, pink up her lips a little bit. Now we can see the effect that the previous white had on this, and now the areas where there was a bit of white are now more pink than what they are red. So there was a reason that I did that. And now I'm putting a little bit of burnt umber in the hair again, just to tone down some of the yellow. And there on her left cheek, I've actually spread it slightly onto the cheek a little bit, just to get some integration between the color of her hair and the color of her face. I'm now just preparing those bits of hair, now taking out some of the glaze to bring it back to canvas, because I'm going to put some highlights on there in the next layer. I'm just accentuating her chin and jawline with a little bit of burnt umber, just slightly, just to give it a bit of shadow. I just felt that her chin didn't show enough definition. The neck wasn't quite knocked back enough, so I just wanted to bring that in. And there again, I'm just cleaning out the areas of the eyes that I wanted to stay fairly light, and of course the highlight areas that I want to stay light. Now this particular layer was just a little bit of alizarin crimson and a touch here and there of other colors, because you're so close to the end of the painting. And the thing is, when you get too close to the end of the painting, then what you have to do per layer becomes less and less. And here again, we're looking at a before and after. You can see the difference now between where I started and where I finished is now a lot closer. There's not as much difference between the beginning and the end, because there's not a heck of a lot more work that I'm doing. Now what I'm doing here is now the following day. I'd left it to dry. In fact, it was 2 days later. I'd left it to dry so that the oil on the canvas was nice and dry. And I'm now doing some titanium white scumbling. Now this is the first time in this painting that I've actually used titanium white. And I'm doing scumbling, so this paint is quite dry. There's not a lot of oil in it. In fact, I didn't add any other oil to it other than what is naturally in the paint. And I'm just going back and really accentuating some of the brightest highlights. It's now where we can also begin to see the difference between the cool reflected light on her right cheek or on our left compared to the warmer glow and brighter lights on our right, her left. The skin has now taken on quite a glossy texture as well, with putting those little white highlights in. Now I'm putting the white on quite thin. It's titanium white, so it's quite strong. It doesn't have to be thick at all. I'm literally almost dry brushing it on in some of those areas, just lightly touching the canvas with what is actually quite a damaged brush, because I want it to be quite a fluffy brush. So it's quite damaged, and that is on purpose. I've used an old brush here. They're just whitening up her teeth a little bit. There's really not a lot of white on her teeth. And that's the one mistake we can often make as artists, is that we make the teeth too white, because teeth, when they're in the mouth and in shadow, there's actually not a lot of white to them. So I didn't want to make them too white, but those highlights on her lips are quite bright and white, having caught the sunlight. And there I'm just adding a little bit more color to the light side of her lip. It's quite a lot more yellow on that side of her lip than it is on the other side. I had put too much, so I'm just taking a little bit off. I take a break from the face now and just pop onto the hair, add some more yellow highlights to that area where the sun is catching. Now the yellow that I'm using here is actually cadmium yellow light that I've mixed with a tiny little bit of white just to give it some extra opacity. And I'm just scumbling it on. Now the white that I'm using here is also not 100% white. It's got a little bit of yellow in it, but not very much. Then I've just brush it on with a fine brush and then go over it with a dry clean brush just to smooth it out, because I don't want them to be very stark lines. And then we're catching some of the highlight on the fringe. Again, brushing it out with a bit of a dry brush. And then I'm just slightly lightening up the eyes as well. I decided that the cheek and forehead needed a little bit more white. And then back to the lips to add a little bit more alizarin crimson. I felt that they were not quite pink enough on that side. Now what's going to happen, because I've done a bit of scumbling with some titanium white on top of the oils, it's going to finish with the titanium white being a slightly more dull or matte finish than the rest of the painting is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait for probably a week or so until this painting is absolutely dry. It doesn't have to be too long because there's not thick layers of titanium white on there at all. They're very thin layers. But I'll probably wait for about a week or so, and then I will go back and oil out the canvas one last time with just plain oil, probably an alkyd oil, and even out the shine, and that'll be the end of the painting. Now there again, a before and after of what I'd done today. And as you can see, I've really just lightened up the highlights. I've just brought the sunlight onto her face just a little bit stronger. I have touched very little on the left side of her face, her right, our left. And there it is, folks. That's the end of the painting. I'm not going to carry on with it anymore. I think it's got enough work on it. Sure, there's lots of tweaks and things that I could do. You know, it's always the case when as an artist you look at your own work and you see all the things that you've done wrong. But I think what I've achieved on this painting that I'm most pleased with is that it looks like a Renaissance style painting. So artist, I want to thank you once again for following this glaze tutorial from beginning to end. It's been jam-packed full of information and spread out over a period of time as you guys are watching it in real time. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the input that you guys have given me throughout this painting. Please don't forget to like and share, and yes, of course, you can go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, and that will be great. Thank you. And I will see you tomorrow in day 71. Bye.
That's what you want to do.